Bad Batch. Metamorphosis.
Man, I didn't. Okay, fine. I'll just watch it now.
It's all right. Remember, I go through the whole thing, so you can hear the whole thing anyway.
Well, you go complain about the noise in the background because I ain't tearing my surround sound off.
All right, here we go. Welcome to the Rebel Alliance Briefing Room Podcast. We are here to podcast about anything and everything Star Wars with you. Please visit our website where you can play current and past episodes. That's https://RABR.KaileJohansson.us. That's RABR.KaileJohansson.us. On the left-hand side is a navigation menu. You can use this to learn how to load the Rebel Alliance Briefing Room podcast on your Android or Apple phone and tablet. And we have direct links to our podcast on Apple and Google Podcasts. Please participate by connecting to our social media, answering questions of the week, or submitting feedback directly from the site. Again, all of these are available at the Rebel Alliance Briefing Room website at RABR.KaileJohansson.us. And now, it's time to talk Star Wars. I am Kyle John Johansson, and this is Andrew Scott Sutton. Say hello. Hello. We are here. No Rick today because Rick's got his family visiting him, he said. All right, so today we're reviewing Star Wars: The Bad Batch.
He doesn't put his family off for 2 hours like I do.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I
send the wife to nappies, and I send the son back to. Well, he has a truck, so he don't care.
Yeah. So Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 11, Metamorphosis, right, Scott? All right.
Yeah.
So we've got some news here, and I'm going to ask.
These stormtroopers are weird. I don't ever remember them like this.
And we got a little bit to talk about them. I've got a little description of what they are and stuff like that here when we start going through the podcast stuff. Because they are clone troopers, so it's important to know that they're clones.
That backlighting really, the lighted shield is really distracting.
Okay, it is. All right, so we're gonna discuss some news first. And I think we're only gonna go through. I've got 8 different things listed here, but they're all just kind of informational. They're not news articles. So I'm just gonna go through 2 of them, I think. So we're gonna talk about the all-terrain armored transports, or the walkers that we see in the shows. So we're going to talk about those for a couple times, and then we're going to review the show, and then we're going to beg for some feedback and talk about, maybe a question of the week, or predictions and stuff like that at the end. So let's play the spoiler thing.
We can mind that too.
All right. So in the news, it's time for the news. Like I said, we're going to talk about all-terrain armored transports. The first one we're going to talk about is during the Galactic Civil War, which is the war that happened basically after the Clone Wars. And these are the big walkers that have 4 legs, huge walkers. And again, they abbreviate them as AT-ATs. I'm sure you see in a lot of places AT-ATs. They were used by the Imperial Army of the Galactic Empire throughout the Imperial era, which has several different models, and they were all made and produced in the Kuat Drive yards, which Kuat is a planetary system. There's several planets in the area that produce military weapons and such. So and they made them there after the formation of the Galactic Empire by Palpatine. They utilized the all-terrain armored transport because it had heavy laser cannons on top that were, and they designed them so that they were more reinforced from underneath. So they were up in the air and they could attack and have basically the high ground, but right. So they could attack things and things couldn't really attack them because they were heavily armored at the bottom. And that's why you see in some of the movies they attack them from the top because the top isn't very much armor on them.
They just trip them.
Yeah, or trip them. That's another vulnerability, which is interesting. There's one that we'll talk about later on, not today, but later on, that they put saws on the legs, so if somebody wrapped a rope around them, the saws cut the rope so it wouldn't trip them, which is it's kind of funny, I thought, but
Inspector Gadget.
Yeah. Well, the saws were always sticking out. It wasn't something that came out or anything, but let's see. The Walker was developed from the Clone Wars era ATTE, which is a transport vehicle. Ground forces, blah blah blah. Featured long legs, lifted narrow body of the vehicle towards, so it towered over their enemies. It was first used widely when they attacked the Wookiees on planet Kashyyyk that we saw in the Clone Wars. You know, they attacked the Wookiees and such. What else? Care about all that. Designed. And that's pretty much most of what you got there. I mean, like I said, it was just a giant transport. There's lots of room in there. So almost all of the transports have two pilots in the front, and then they might have another guy that is maybe a logistics guy that's not logistics, but maybe mapping or looking at radar or something like that kind of guy. And then there's a huge amount of room in the back for storage to transport things or people, of course. They used them a lot of times as weapons and such. And let me see here. Yes. So this next one, like I said, is we're going to talk about is a modification of the same vehicle, but it's called an Elite ATAT. And that's the one I told you about that has the saws on the legs. It's got heavier armor. It's a darker color. Bigger cannons. This elite one was piloted by an elite crew who were amongst the best pilots in the Galactic Army. The vehicle had built-in saws on the legs, making it nearly impossible to take down with a cable. And these appeared rarely. These were not very many of them made. It actually says here that they only appeared once in a video game called Star Wars Commander, which is interesting because that's the first time these clones that you're seeing in there, they're called commandos. We're seeing too is in the same show. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. You got any questions about those things, Scott? The walkers.
So could they fly, or were they on ships that landed and walk off ships? Well,
yeah, they were.
I never seen one delivered to the.
They were They were on
surface
ships
of
that
a planet.
landed. Sometimes I don't know if you remember seeing in the Clone Wars where they dropped the tanks down, they would be attached to the bottom of something.
Okay.
And then when they get low enough, they just kind of let it go, and it would land on the ground. There was that, or there was transports that they would be inside and they would walk out, kind of thing.
Mhm.
But they never fly. They don't have any propulsion except for by the legs.
Okay.
Yeah, and it shows here. And I don't remember this, but in Rebels there was a what they call a Godzanti class cruiser deploying these ATATAs. So like they're at the top of the ATA, they're attached to this kind of cruiser that's dropping them down on the ground, kind of thing. It's
okay.
it's an interesting thing.
I could never
picture,
remember them, like delivering to the surface or.
yeah, I'd show you a picture. Show you a picture here. It's not very clear, but it might help. Let's see. Share.
So.
Here's my screen. You see my screen now? Over on the left-hand side, there's a small picture. That's one of the transports dropping the ATAs down.
Oh, fine.
Here's a small picture up here. I went back, didn't I? Here's a small picture here of the elite one. It's got the saws on it. You can't really. The picture's so bad you can't really see them, but you can see things on their legs. That's just saws and stuff. But
I guess they thought that would be a good defense, huh?
Yeah, and they didn't. Like I said, there wasn't very many of them because they were in most cases the walkers were really successful in helping a ground assault. Because usually, the planets they were dealing with, sure they had ships and stuff, but most of them they were attacking ground forces, and like I said, these gave them the upper hand because they were usually had bigger guns than someone can carry, and they were heavily armored, so they were to a ground team they were almost indestructible. So let's look at this one. This one's called the First Order All-Terrain Armored Transport. It's manufactured the same place. And it's got 4 legs too. I say 4 legs because some of the ones we're going to look at later, like next week probably, have 6 legs or 8 legs, and they're huge. They're like hundreds of feet or something like that. So like this one here says the length from the front of the head to the back is 24 meters long, which is that's
240 feet.
Yeah, it's quite a bit.
Because it's by 10s, right?
Yeah, and the height from the ground to the top is 22 meters. So they almost go up as high as they are, from front to back.
Yeah,
which is interesting. They got extremely long legs, partially to prevent people from crawling up them too. So it's pretty hard to crawl up a leg. What was it? You had what?
Woo.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing that by yourself. I'm gonna put the audio back on. Okay. All right, so that was the end of the news, basically for there. Anybody's got any questions, send us some feedback about it, and we'll discuss more about it. The news. All right. So, our cast this week, the voice actors and stuff. Of course, normally we have the clone troopers is D. Bradley William or Bradley Baker. Omega is Michelle Yang. We had Sid again this week for Rhea Perlman. We had Dr. Royce Hemlock, he's a new guy. Jimmi Simpson was him. Dr. Scalder, which is the female, I think, with the glasses that were orangish or whatever. That's Helen Sadler. The droid that warned Tech that there was danger on board, and he kind of died. And Lama Sue was voiced by Bob Bergen. Emerie Karr was voiced by Keisha Castle-Hughes. And Nala Say was voiced by Gwendoline Yeo. The Emerie Karr chick, I'm confused at who she is, because I'm confused at who is Dr. Sadler too, because there's two or three females that talk in the episode, and I'm not quite sure.
Who's the guy with the one robotic hand?
That's Dr. Royce.
Dr. Royce.
Dr. Royce Hemlock. He's the one guy who knows how to do cloning.
No.
The rest of them are like his subordinates and stuff. So with that, let's play our newest commercial.
Hey, you over there. Are you a trooper? Is your armor always dirty? When do you find time to clean it? Did Rebel Scum scratch and damage it? Does your helmet communications keep acting up? Stop by Aaron's Armor Sparkalorium before 1500 hours.
Hey, Aaron.
And sanitize your armor for the next day pickup. Our patented galactically ancient secret cleaning techniques will have your armor sparkling just like a new Cerealian Y-1300 freighter just off the assembly line. You'll be the envy of all your friends and coworkers, from the castles on Lothal to the politicians on Coruscant to the environmentalists on Endor. For your next day service, stop by Aaron's Armor Sparkalorium. We are located in Tatooine's Mos Eisley Spaceport, directly across from Hangar 35. We will also repair and sell most parts at the best rates in the known galaxy. All services guaranteed and licensed by the Emperor himself to last a lifetime. Only at Aaron's Armor Sparkalorium. We accept real credits only. Helmets and boots are services are extra.
All right.
Sparkalorium.
Yeah. That's my favorite new word that I made up. Yeah. No, just Aaron's, not Aaron.
It's Aaron.
Nope, it's
D-Nice works at cash register.
No, if there's only one A.
No, it's Aaron.
Anyway,
Cereal.
I made it up. It's me.
So
no.
Yeah.
Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 11, Metamorphosis, aired on March 1st, 2023. Was 30 minutes long. And again, timeline was 19 before the Battle of Yavin. And I wanted to kind of, we'll touch on this again in the next episode, but I wanted to kind of show again what our timeline looks like. Right here. Timeline. Because I know it's going to get confusing with two shows. We got one that's just after episode 3, where the Order 66 happened. Bad Batch happens. It says here 18, but now we're in 19 before Battle Yavin. And Mandalorian is way here past Return of the Jedi. It's, see, this Return of the Jedi was 4 years, which after New Hope. Bad Batch today. This episode is in 9 years after the Battle of Yavin, so it's way over here. So we've got, you know, uh, 30 some years from between the Bad Batch and when the Mandalorian's happening. I just kind of wanted to point that out so that we are all kind of on the same page there with that.
You understand that, Zoe? You understand that, Zoe? On the same page, you're good. All right.
Yep, she's
We're all
good.
good here.
All right, so then it's time to grab your favorite beverage, pull up a chair, and join us in the Rebel Alliance briefing room. So the episode starts out. A smoking, deserted Imperial science vessel drops out of hyperspace and drifts sideways through space with a cloud of dust and debris following it. A clone commando runs along a dim corridor holding an electrostaff as he turns into the hall with rotating turbines. He trips and loses his electrostaff and falls. As he gets back up into his feet, his electrostaff flickers before going off. The anxious commando surveys his surroundings before something grabs him from above, and the electrostaff drops to the ground, still switched on. Okay, so start off with we're going to talk about the clone commandos a little bit. They were special commandos with extra heavy armor that included a backpack, which our Clone 99 troopers have backpacks. But if you look at most of the other clones, they didn't have backpacks at all. Members would keep various items like grenades and sabotage gear in their backpacks. They were allowed to choose the colors of their armor in combat. The commandos utilized the DC-17 interchangeable weapon system and the DC-17 hand blaster, which whatever, I don't know what that means for sure. We'll find out later. They all came through the Imperial base on Darrow like RC-1262 that was mentioned in our episode. His name is actually Scorch, and we've seen him before. He was in another episode. Dang it, I thought I had that here listed here, but he was in another episode. I believe it was a Rebels episode where our batch. He was the guy that was in charge of Gregor. So remember our Bad Batch episode where they rescued Gregor from prison. This guy was his commander. Was Gregor's commander. And they also had a small vibra blade, kind of like what Hunter's got. You know, that little blade that they have. And I say they also had access to grenade launchers. I keep saying our clone troopers because known members of the clone commandos were Clone Force 99, Delta Squad, and Foxtrot Group. So there was 3 different groups. Our group, of course, is a small group, but Delta Squad and Foxtrot Group were, hundreds of clone commanders in those groups. And I think on this ship and what we see elsewhere, like on the planet and everywhere else, I think those are Delta Squad clone commandos. All right, so let's keep going. Okay, the electric staff switched off, and then we switched to several Row-class shuttles escorting an Imperial transport shuttle towards the Imperial base on Wayland. And Scott, you should remember Wayland too, because that was mentioned in Rebels too. That's the one of the places we saw Admiral Thrawn in Rebels. And it's flanked by 2 commandos, Sadler, Scalder, steps forward and greets Dr. Royce Hemlock as he disembarks from the lead shuttle. Dispensing with formalities, the doctor provides brief instructions regarding the arrival of remaining vessels before continuing into the facility. Stopping outside the holding cell, Hemlock greets the prisoner within, revealed to be the Camino former chief scientist Nala Se. Dun, dun, dun. Attempting to persuade her of cooperation, Hemlock praises the scientist's achievements before convincing her that her talents could serve a higher purpose within the Empire. After Nala Se continues to refuse cooperation, saying that why would she cooperate because, they killed her entire planet, Hemlock threatens that he could do far worse to her than simply have her locked up in a cell. As he leaves Nala Se to ponder this, Scalder approaches him with updates about Transport 904, whom they have lost communication with, which means it's probably the one that we talked about at the beginning of the episode here. Hemlock orders the recovery teams to begin a search and for the transported asset to be contained. He also inquires about Camoans who were taken off-world prior to the destruction of Camino. And Emerie informs him of one, the former Camoan prime minister, whom Hemlock requests to be brought before him. Alisei watches as the Imperials depart. This is where we get the next scene is a funny scene, Scott. This is where we're on the Marauder with the Bad Batch going through hyperspace. And Omega and Wrecker chastise Sid for not helping them after they lost their starship during the mission to acquire Ipsium. Sid asks them if they want to mope or they want to make money. She tells them, "You want to mope?" She tells them she received a tip of a downed ship that offers to give them 30% of the cut. Tech convinces Sid to raise the share to 35 for the operation. The other clones show disconcern, and Sid raises their cut to, what is it? She raises it to 40 and then finally 50% as a token of her goodwill.
She won't honor that.
Yeah, well, they aren't going to give her the ship anyway. We know that from the episode. So, she tells them that she will be sending intelligence and warns them not to return without scavenging something. When Hunter asks why she should expect them to return, Sid warns that not to test her and to get the job done. Because she knows stuff. Yeah. Tech advises that severing ties with Sid will be complicated since she knows compromising information about them. This is the last mission. They tell Tech that this is probably the last mission for Sid. Hunter explains that Sid only sent them coordinates for the lost ship without any transponder code or indication of what the cause of the ship's crash. Wrecker is surprised that Sid sent them limited intelligence, while Omega questions whether scavenging wreckage will be hard. The Bad Batch follow the coordinates, which take them to a village on a planet. Tech surmises that the crash was reported quickly since it landed near a village. Based on Marauder's sensors, he observes that the crash vessel appears to be intact and thinks that the cargo should be in fair condition to transport. The Bad Batch land near the ship in a clearing. As they approach the starship, Wrecker and Hunter notice that there is no hull markings. Based on severe hull damage and lack of communication signal, Tech believes the crew all perished.
Okay.
Omega disagrees. She says, "Let's go inside and find out." The Bad Batch explore the starship but find no signs of the crew. Wrecker discovers a discarded high-voltage electric staff. After discovering scratch marks, Hunter surmises that whatever killed the crew was not human.
It's not human.
It's not
It's a big
human.
lizard. It's a big lizard.
Oh, it's a big. Hey, spoilers. Jeez. Oh,
It's a It's a Dinosaurus Rex.
Tech says that he will restore the ship's power and data logs on the bridge. Omega is concerned Tech is going alone, but Tech reassures her that he will be fine. Tech enters the ship's engine room, which has been damaged during the crash. Using the visual sensors in his helmet, Tech searches for the power cable. Meanwhile, the other clones search their part of the starship and stumble upon a laboratory. Omega recognizes it. Oh, this is Camino medical technology, but observes it's different from those on Toboka City. Hunter contacts Tech, who is rerouting the reserve power. He manages to reconnect power and searches the engine room. Tech encounters an AZ series surgical assistant droid who warns him about the danger. And then he dies. Tech asks the droid while he's dying what attacked the ship, but it runs out of power before he can. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ship, Wrecker, Hunter, and Omega discover reinforced walls within the laboratory, which are lined with slime.
That's cool.
Amidst the darkness, the trio encounter a juvenile Zillo Beast, which we're going to talk about in a second. When the creature roars at them, Hunter and Wrecker drive it away with their blasters. The creature flees up the ceiling shafts, and the backup power suddenly flows back into the lab. The Zillo Beast runs past them, and Hunter warns Tech via comm to leave the ship. Tech responds that the ship is a research vessel. Wrecker responds that they all know why. Omega surmises that the research subject has escaped, and Hunter warns Tech that the creature is headed his way. So, Zillo Beast, okay? It's called a gargantuan serpent-like creature. At full adult size, it's 97 meters tall. The Zillo Beast towered over all species on its native planet, Malazar, and was considered the top of its food chain until its presumed extinction. Its tail contained 8 sharp spikes, and the beast itself uniquely possessed a third arm protruding from its back. Juvenile Zillo Beast lacked the third arm, which only started developing after the beast grew in size. Zillo Beast had 2 glowing green eyes, and they were able to see in total darkness. Also had powerful claws and jaws that could bite through metal, and possessed a lengthy whip-like tail, like I said, covered with spikes. It had a heavy plated armor that was invulnerable to explosions, blaster fire, and even lightsaber strikes. When battling against what was believed the last Zillo Beast in existence, Anakin Skywalker discovered that gaps in the creature's armor plate could be exploited to damage and stun the creature during the battle against the beast. Clone troopers were able to subdue the creature by using a Falchion-class assault tank and aiming at the gaps in the armor, putting the beast to sleep so they could transport to Coruscant. While in captivity at Coruscant, Dr. Sonjer Boyle observed the creature was possibly sentient. This deduction was reinforced by the creature's hostile behavior towards Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, whom the beast had observed ordering Boyle to kill it via hologram. After breaking out of the contamination facility, the creature terrorized the planet in an unsuccessful attempt to kill the Chancellor, whose face it recognized from the hologram. and later in the Senate building. It was later killed by poison gas fired by Republic gunships climbing while it was climbing the Senate building. But Palpatine ordered Boyle to clone the creature. Then here's a little bit of information more about it. Zillo Beast fed on electricity or energy with electronic proton bomb was able to wake this beast that they fired the gas on. Zillo Beast could consume numerous sources of electricity, including types found on starship power conduits and planet power grids upon direct contact and so on. And if you remember, during this time, I talked about how Anakin Skywalker helped defeat the Zillo Beast. The Bad Batch was there at that time. This happened in I think it happened. We saw a Zillo Beast also on a different planet. I believe it was in season 2 of Rebels. And I think that's the first time we were actually introduced to the Bad Batch in Rebels, was during that episode. So we've seen the Zillo Beast before. That's what I'm trying to say.
Was that the episode that Order 66 happened?
No, this is before that, because Anakin was not Darth Vader at the time. So this is before that. But that's what we saw the Bad Batch for the first time at that time, and they were, were just regular troopers that followed orders. All right, so back to the episode. The tech shoots at the power generators, and the ship explodes outward, and we see the Beast escape. And the Beast runs off and is feeding on electricity power from the generators. Hole through the hull, the Zillo Beast escapes the wrecked vessel into the forest towards the nearby village. Hunter says they have to stop the creature before it harms civilians. Wrecker says that the blasters are useless against the creature. Tech thinks that the creature is not hungry since it ate the crew already. Omega's like, what? Ate the crew?
My view of the thing, when it was in there in the engine room or whatever, the power source, it was eating energy.
Yes, and that's what I said. It feeds on electric energy. That's where it gets its power. So eating the crew didn't really.
Yeah.
It just ate the crew because it was annoying it, probably, right? Hunter tasks Tech with assessing the ship's files to search for information on how to neutralize the creature. Omega volunteers to help Tech since she is familiar with the Kamonian technology. Hunter and Wrecker depart aboard the Marauder to hunt down the Zillo Beast. They fire upon the creature with the ship's laser cannons. However, the Zillo Beast eludes them. Meanwhile, Tech and Omega discover that the ship's data is highly encrypted. Omega finds information and technology about extracting genetic data from its host. Omega tells Tech that she heard rumors about Kamonians experiments happening off-world. Elsewhere, the Zillo Beast begins feeding on a power generator in the village. Back on the starship, Tech and Omega discovered that the creature's genetic material was being used for modified armor plating. So the Empire is trying to create armor plating of some sort, maybe for ships, star destroyers, or I don't know. People could wear them, I guess. Tech surmises the creature is impervious to blaster bolts. He also discovers that the species feeds on energy only and propels and it propels its rapid growth. The more it feeds, the more it grows. Omega and Tech surmise that the creature grows bigger while it's feeding on the power conduits. Tech informs that the creature is from the same species that attacked Coruscant during the Clone Wars. Tech warns Hunter not to let the creature near the power grid or it will increase exponentially in size. Hunter and Wrecker reach the power grid where they discover the Zillo Beast has reached gargantuan size. Amazing size. Shortly, 3 Venture-class Star Destroyers and transport several low assault vehicles. They call them LATs, low altitude assault transport vehicles. And gunships arrive above the planet. Meanwhile, the village's human and alien residents react in fear and panic as they see the Zillo Beast drains their settlement's power grid. Hunter and Wrecker attempt to shoot down the Zillo Beast, but are forced to flee when Imperial gunships arrive. Hunter warns Tech and Omega via comlink that Imperial forces have arrived, and Tech says he won't leave until he has finished transferring the data. I have to get the data. Omega convinces him to leave, and the two escape before the gunship obliterates the wrecked cargo transport. And she doesn't really convince him. She unplugs everything and tells him to leave. So the Imperial LAT gunships battle with the Zillo Beast. They are joined by transports and which fire a sonic boom. So I don't know if you noticed, but the LAT ships were shooting at the actual power facility and not the Zillo Beast because they knew that their weapons wouldn't work on it. So they were shooting out the power facility so they could then capture the Zillo Beast. And so they fire this weird laser at it, which incapacitates the Zillo Beast. The Corvette uses a grappling claw to drag the incapacitated Zillo Beast into its cargo hold. Wrecker tells Hunter that the Imperials are taking the Zillo Beast. Oh no!
I got the Zillo Beast.
Hunter decides to retreat in order to avoid
But
capture.
he's my friend.
Yeah. An Imperial shuttle lands, and several of the clone commandos enter the village. After shooting down 2 Alpha class V-wing starfighters, Hunter and Wrecker evacuate Tech and Omega in the Marauder. They then fly into space, outrunning the Imperial V-class wings. Aboard the Imperial transport, clone commandos seal the Zillo Beast inside a large tank, which is immersed in a turquoise liquid. I wonder if it's that Bacta stuff, that we see all the time. Other clone commandos round up the villagers aboard the shuttle. After fleeing into hyperspace, Tech informs the other clones that the crashed Imperial vessel was part of an Imperial cloning operation. When Hunter asks if the Emperor cloned the Zillo Beast, Tech explains that Palpatine issued the order when he was still Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Republic. So again, before Order 66.
Mm-hmm.
When Wrecker asks why the Emperor was interested in the Zillo Beast, Tech explains that the creature's genetic material has the potential to be weaponized in hands of the right scientist. Hunter asks where they will be taking the Zillo Beast, but Tech is unable to answer since the ship lacked a destination. Tech theorizes that the Empire did not destroy the cities on Kamino to end cloning, but rather to gain control over the technology. They wanted to be the only source of cloning. Hunter tells the clones to share this information with Rex and Echo, and Omega watches anxiously from the gun pod. Later, Dr. Scalder informs Dr. Hemlock that the Zillo Beast has been recovered and has been secured in Mount Tanasis. She informed Hemlock that Lama Su will be arriving soon. Hemlock speaks to the clone commandos commanding officer RC-1262, which I said earlier was nicknamed Scorch, and asks if the locals saw the Zillo Beast. RC-1262 responds that the locals have been detained and will be dealt with. He informs Dr.
Right now.
He's going to kill him probably. Dr. Hemlock informs that a military class vessel escaped their assault. Hemlock tasks RC-1262 with investigating who the vessel belongs to and turns his attention to Lama Su. So again, I said RC-1262, his nickname was Scorch. He was a clone commando who served the Galactic Republic Army as part of an elite unit of Delta Squad in the period following the Clone Wars and the rise of the Galactic Empire. In our timeline, Scorch was involved in the training of the first generation of non-cloned Imperial stormtroopers at the Imperial base on planet Daro, which is, like I said, where we rescued Gregor from. CC5576-39 is Gregor's number. He was captured trying to desert the base, and rogue units known as the Bad Batch infiltrated the base and freed him. Scorch engaged Gregor and his liberators and pursued them, wounding Gregor in overpowering tech before being incapacitated by a flurry of gun blasts by the remaining Bad Batch. He later regained consciousness and joined the Imperial troops on a lat gun ship to apprehend the Bad Batch hunter, taking him into custody. So that's the link between the commandos and our Bad Batch. So back to the show. Hemlock is talking to Lama Su. Lama Su asks why he's been brought to Wayland. And Hemlock explains that he is having trouble securing Nala Se's cooperation. Lama Su responds by telling Hemlock it must be frustrating to have all the resources but lacking the expertise to exploit it. He taunts Hemlock that he may end up in a cell like him. Hemlock tells Lama Su that he must understands this situation. Lama Su offers to motivate Nala Se in return for his freedom. He tells Hemlock that he must locate a young clone named Omega. Whom he describes as the key to controlling Nala Se. Hemlock invites Lama Su in for discussion. And technically we see the credits roll. But Wayland was first used in a previous episode for season 1 of Bad Batch. Camino Lost, back in 2021 when we saw that episode. Wayland was created by the author Timothy Zahn in his first appearance in 1991, the novel Heir to the Empire. Wayland in Mount Tannis was the home to the Emperor Palpatine's secret storehouse, including thousands of Spartae cloning cylinders, making the planet used for Imperial cloning technology, and it continues in both. And again, Heir to the Empire is an Admiral Thrawn book. So that's our episode, Scott. What'd you think about it?
Action. I want one of those for a pet. And it wasn't.
The Zillo Beast?
Yeah. I mean, it's
I don't
pretty
know.
tall. Got into the back of the tank. It was standing up.
Yeah, it was. And I said before in the description of it, it's 97 meters tall, which is pretty tall. We're talking Empire State Building tall. So I don't know if you wanted it as a pet though. It looked like it was kind of vicious, right? and you wouldn't have any electricity around because it would be eating electricity all the time.
Yeah, but it'd be good. Maybe you could. Hey, buddy, can you charge my phone?
Maybe you have to get him to swallow the cord so it would plug in.
No, you just go by its shell, by its hard skin, and say, "Hey, activate this part of your shell." Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe.
Your CP.
I'm always sleepy. So, with what you heard, Scott, do you have a question of the week, or I haven't come up with one yet because I'm having a hard time trying to figure out what's going to happen next. I know that we're probably going to see Scorch again because he's hunting the vessel that our crew escaped in.
I think yeah.
Let's do that. Let's do
5:30. I mean,
will we
I think
see?
all come. You think all these different versions are going to come back and like in the end, and we're going to get Crosshair and the rest of them.
I think so. I think
it's going to be a big battle, and Crosshair, some way Crosshair is going to save them and come back to them, or you think Crosshair is just permanently Empire?
No, I think you're kind of right. I think all of this is building to, of course, a huge climax, like you said, because the last 2 episodes are released on the same day. So I think the last 2 episodes is going to be that huge battle that we're talking about. I think all this is going to come together, and because currently, right now, most of the Empire doesn't know that the Bad Batch still exists. Because if you remember, that
going to give them up.
No, I think Scorch is going to find them. Okay. He's going to figure out who they are. Because you remember the who was it? Admiral Rampart. That's who it was. Basically was hiding the fact that they still existed because it would look bad against him.
Yeah.
So he and a few people are the only ones that know the Bad Batch are still alive. And I think this episode here is going to expose them, and they're going to figure out they're still alive. And we're building up to a big battle because let's see here. We're on episode 11. This was episode 11. And we have, I think, 14 episodes. Let's see. Let me look it up here while we're on the.
I thought it was like 16.
Yeah, I think you're right. 16 episodes. So we're on 11, so that means we have 5 left, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've kind of done this on all the recent episodes. I'm going to read off the new the episode title, since we know them and we've known them from the beginning. So our current title is Metamorphosis. The next one's called The Outpost, as in The Outpost, which, they could meet somewhere or whatever. And the next one's called Pabu, which I don't know if that's somebody's name or a planet or something. And then episode 14 is called Tipping Point, which sounds like where everything is starting to boil together. And then the last 2 are called The Summit and Plan 99. The Plan 99 sounds like something major, like a plan to destroy the Bad Batch or something like that, or maybe the Bad Batch has their own plan. I don't know. What'd you think about that?
Yep, but the Plan 99 could be the big thing,
Yep.
It's 66.
All right, so we're gonna ask for some feedback now.
Ask for some feedback now.
Feedback at KyleJohansson.us. That's feedback, KyleJohansson.us.
All right, so you can send us feedback through that email address that we just heard. You can go on our website and click on the one of the left-hand side and click on the link that says feedback. We'll give you a form. You fill it out and type in what you want. Send it to us. Our questions of the week. We'll have you answer the question, and then there'll be a comment section below. Again, that's on the left-hand side of the website page. You can also find us on Twitter at super_duper_pod. And of course, we take these videos and put them on YouTube, and there's a comment section there as well. So please send us feedback so we can, change stuff or find out if we're wrong or like Scott said, maybe Rick's beard looks better because that's why he shaved. We don't know because I don't know. Last week Scott was combing his long old beard. Now it's gone. What happened? So tell us all that good stuff, right, Scott?
Mm-hmm.
What happened? What happened to the beard, man?
It fell out along with my hair.
What? Stop doing that.
Stop doing what?
Pulling your hair out.
I didn't pull it out. You're not listening.
I was listening. I'm just saying, stop doing that. Stop it. All right. So, is there anything else you want to talk about this episode, Scott?
Negatory.
Do you need a few minutes to get up and run around a little bit and
No.
do some jumping jacks? All right. Here goes the outro. Thank you for listening to the Rebel Alliance Briefing Room podcast. Please visit our website where you can play current and past episodes. That's https://RABR KyleJohansson.us. That's RABR KyleJohansson.us. On the left-hand side is a navigation menu. You can use this to learn how to load the Rebel Alliance Briefing Room podcast on your Android or Apple phone and tablet. And we have direct links to our podcast on Apple and Google Podcasts. Please participate by connecting to our social media, answering questions of the week, or submitting feedback directly from the site. Again, all of these are available at the Rebel Alliance Briefing Room website at RABR.KyleJohansson.us. This podcast in no way is approved, sponsored, or owned by Lucasfilms Ltd., Disney, Disney Plus, or any of its subsidiaries. All opinions are solely owned by Kyle and or Scott and in no way express the views or opinions of their past or present employers. Views and opinions are not supported or restricted by Lucasfilms Ltd., Disney, Disney Plus, or any of its subsidiaries. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or any or other use of this podcast and its affiliate sites without consent of Super Duper Podcast Network and its host is prohibited. Prohibited. I am Kyle Johansson. This is F. Scott Sutton. Say goodbye now. Say goodbye.
Hello, bye. Hello, goodbye.
Oh, no, it's a goodbye.
Goodbye.
All right. Goodbye. Let's pause this.